Hello, so this is a tutorial on installing and using Sastre. Okay, so we start installing the tool. So the tool is available on pip. The package name is Cisco SD-WAN. The only prerequisite before you actually run this is that you have Python 3 installed in your laptop. Okay, I like using this minus upgrade keyword so that every time you run the tool, if there's a newer version available, then it will upgrade whatever you have. And if you don't, it doesn't, then you do nothing else. Okay. So let's just check whether the tool is uh, installed. So we type SD-WAN version, so it shows which version is currently running. So it's 34, which is the latest one we have. Um, and you can use -H to see the help screen. And so there are some global options, if you will, that defines the baseline parameters such as the IP address and the credentials for accessing a target vManage. And then after those, you specify a task, right? The task can be, at this point, we have backup, restore, delete, list, and show template tasks. And then each task will have its own task specific parameters, and which you see after specifying the task. So regarding the global parameters, there are those here, and you can either supply them via the CLI using the -A, U, and P options, or you can use environment variables to load them so that you don't need to specify them every time you execute the tool. So what I like doing is have a small text file that export the environment variables so that I don't need to repeat and provide the user and password every time. But that's up to you. I mean, you can either have the same. You may also prefer to have in this file maybe only the IP address and username, and then the password is specified every time. That's up to you. Okay. So in order to load those variables, I will just do a source. Okay. So now I don't need to specify those parameters at every time. So uh, if I specify now the task, like backup, for instance, and then -H, it will display the backup task uh, parameters. So there is one mandatory, which is the tag. So the tag allows you to filter groups of configuration items that you may want you'd like to back up, right? So there is a special tag all, which means you're backing up all configuration items from vManage. But if you want, you can filter and, for example, only backup device templates or vSmart policies and so on. Okay, so let's start with a backup. So let's do SD-WAN. Okay. You may notice now that added this verbose option, and so the by default, if you don't specify verbose, only warning or error or higher severity messages are displayed on the terminal. If you specify verbose, then informational items are also displayed. And so that's a way, if you would like to follow what the tool is doing, you can use that. If you don't care and can want only to be notified if there is an error, then you don't specify verbose. Okay, let's scroll a little bit back here. Just want to show something. So on every task, it shows the source and target of the task. So in this case, we're taking items from that vmanage URL and saving to this work directory. As you may have noticed, the directory was not provided by the users, and so the default format follows this backup underscore, then the IP address of vmanage, and then a timestamp. Okay. If you'd like to customize this, you can specify the work there option, and then that will save to whatever directory you may choose. Okay. At the end, there is a indication that the task completed successfully. If during the execution there was any warning or error, anything uh, that is like will require some attention in the end, it would say provide kind of like a summary saying, okay, there were X number of warnings, etc. And so that's, I mean, by looking at the last message, you can see, you can have a indication whether any issue happened or not. You don't need to parse through the whole log. Okay, talking about logs, uh, regardless of whether you specify the verbose option, uh, there is a logs directory that we have a rotation scheme of log files, and you can always refer back to those files if you would like to troubleshoot further, maybe an issue or verify, I mean, the execution of a certain task. Okay, so now that we have just backed up, if we check our repository, you can see that this is the directory that where we saved that like a fresh backup. I have some additional backups here from the same vmanage and from other vmanage that we are going to use throughout this demo to show some of the different tasks. Okay. So next I will show the delete. So first let's check what kind of device templates are configured in this vmanage. So we can use, in order to quickly find that out, you can use that list task. So in this case, I used a tag as well. If you want to see what options are available for the list task, you specify list minus help, and so it shows all the tags and additional parameters you may use. Okay. So back to my list. So these are the device templates because I specified that tag. Okay. And what I'd like to show is a way that where you can like filter exactly items that you may want to delete. In my case, I would like to delete those two advanced templates, right? And so what I can do is so first I will just show a dry run. So the idea is some of the tasks like the delete and the restore, because they are modifying things on vmanage, um, we have this dry run option that basically will go through all these steps, but won't actually send the API calls to vmanage, and so nothing will change on the vmanage itself. And so it's a good way to like double check exactly what's going to happen before you go ahead and perform the modifications. And so in this case, so I will just run the dry run, and normally, without the dry run, what it would do is it would delete all the templates, all the device templates. Okay, I'd like to filter that further and only uh, delete those advanced ones. So I can specify a regular expression that will match the template name. So I know that, uh, so for example, this case, it will match any device template that contains the this keyword ADV. So I believe that that will be enough to match the two templates that I like to delete. Again, I'm using the dry run, so nothing is gonna be deleted at this point. I just want to double check exactly what's going to happen. So yeah, that the regular expression worked, and so now that I'm comfortable with the regular expression, I can remove the dry run option, and it will actually go ahead and delete those templates. Okay, so if I repeat the list command, so now you'll see that those two templates are gone. Okay, so I can also log in to my actual vmanage, and I'll see that those templates are gone. Okay, so back to the demo here. So now I would like to restore, right? And so um, I have this fresh backup that was taken just before I deleted those items. So if I just run restore now, it will restore only the items that are missing, right? So in this case are exactly those two device templates. And if I check again the list, so they are back now, okay? So on the restore, a couple of things. So first, you see that I have not specified any work directory, and so similar to the backup, the default working directory for restore is follows the same format and using the current date. Okay, and if you specify the work directory, then it would load the configuration items of that directory. Okay, so in my case, I have those previous backups from additional vmanage um, installs, and so what I'd like to do is restore a specific vsmart policy of this backup vmanage to install. Okay, so first let's see what kind of policies are there. So this list task, if you provide a work directory, it will read off that backup. If you don't specify the work directory, it will read off the live vmanage. Okay, so these are the vsmart policies in this backup. And what I'd like to do is uh, load this particular policy to my vmanage. Okay, and so I will start. So the base option is like restore policy vsmart, and then I'm providing the work directory backup vmanage 2. So that's the source. Uh, I don't want to restore every single policy, so I will provide a regular expression again. And in this case, the policy I'm interested in is this one that happens to be the only one that ends with this v02 keyword. So what I'm doing is having this regular expression. So this dollar sign indicates like matching the end of the name. So I want a v02 at the end. So that's basically this item. Because I'm not sure that this will work, so I'm just using the dry run, making sure that this regular expression is matching what I expect. So you may have noticed that a number of items are included in this dry run. And so what happens is only a single policy actually matched, which is this one at the end. However, this policy has a number of dependencies. And so Sastre identifies all the dependencies and include in this restore. And so that's why those items here, you see a dependency at the end, meaning that they were added not because they match the regular expression, but because they were dependencies of this policy. Okay. And so this was just a dry run. So you can tell this by saying this dry run at the beginning of each message. So now that I know what what I'd like to restore, I can remove the dry run, and those items will be updated to vSmart, to vManage. While it's running, we can just quickly check back my policies in there. You can see at this point, I only have this central policy v1, and soon it will have the new policy that's being updated. Okay. Okay, so it's complete. Let's refresh the browser window. You can see now that the new policy is there. Okay, and along with that policy, all the dependencies. I mean, the VPN lists, the individual like control and data policies, etc. Okay. So next, I'd like to show the like a full delete, if you will. Before that, let's just use the list just to double check again that the new policy is there. Yeah, it's there. That's the policy. So delete. Uh, if I try to delete items from vmanage, and those items they have some kind of attachment. For example, if I try to delete a device template that happens to be attached to devices, vmanage won't allow me, and then it will provide like an error uh, back, right? So in order, for an install with some devices attached, I need to detach them before I go ahead with the delete. So we can see, for example, if I just try here like a delete all, it will be able to delete some items because those items were not with any attachment, but a number of those other items we couldn't delete because they were part of an attachment, right? And so that's why you can see like a number of warnings here because vManage didn't allow me to delete them. And so at the end you see, okay, there were like 34 warnings. Okay, so if I'd like to fully delete those items, I need to specify this detach keyword. And so what we'll do is it's going to identify what uh, templates are attached, whether there is any vSmart policy activated, and basically do the detach and deactivate before going ahead with the deletion. Okay, so that's what it's doing now. So it did detach the templates, and now it is deactivating the vSmart policy. And next, it will basically detach the vSmart template as well. As you can see, I mean, the effect of this is basically uh, wiping off all a full like install of the manage. I mean, that's not something someone would normally do in production, but a lot of times, I mean, like if, for example, if you have a shared environment, like a lab environment, where you'd like to load like a backup you may have and make sure there's no other like existing items in there before you load your backup and so on. So that could be a good use case for this delete detach. Okay. So now it's gone. So if I go to my vManage, you see that I don't have any more templates, and I don't have any more policies. Okay, right. So the same way as I was able to fully wipe out, I am able also to fully restore. So I can, if I just run this like a restore all, it will restore all items, but will not go ahead and attach any previous attachments that were saved to the backup. So in order to restore the attachments, I need to provide this attach option. And so it will basically restore all items from the backup, and which backup is defined by the default in this case, because I didn't specify any work directory. Um, and so, and then after it loads all the backup items, it will reattach the devices and reactivate any vSmart policy that we have had in your backup. Okay, so it just completed. So if I go back to my vManage, you can see that the templates are restored. There are some devices attached back. Okay, same thing for policy. So the policy was restored. So another task is that is related to attachments is the ability to see the values associated with that attachment. So there is this show template task that has the values keyword, which basically will show the template values for certain attachments. So if I try -h to see what options are there, uh, so I need to specify some kind of identification for the device template. So either by name, by ID, or a regular expression that matches the name, right? So first I'll just see what templates are there. And in this case, I'd like to see the values for this branch basic template. And so I know the name. Okay, so basically the this template is attached to the device vEdge B1 and vEdge B2, and then there is a table. Oops, there is a table for each in displaying the variables for the values for each attachment. Okay. Another option is you may have noticed one additional option of the show template is a CSV. And so what you can do is instead of displaying to your terminal, you can save that same table uh, to a CSV file. So in this case, you likely have multiple templates or a device attached to each template, and the tool will basically create a directory and then save files per template per device. Okay. All right. So at last, I'd like to show the restore force feature. So normally, if you don't specify anything in a restore, uh, the Sastre tool will identify items by name only. So what I mean by that is, if there is let's say a device template on vManage that has a name of a device template on the backup, I will assume that that device template on vManage should be kept. So I will leave it there and won't like override on top of it. Uh, there is a force option that will basically not only match the name, but will check if there is any diffs between the backup uh, item, backup template in this case, and the vmanage device template, for example. And if there are diffs, then it will override the item on vmanage with the contents from the backup. Okay, so let's show this one. If I go to my vmanage, let's say we'll pick one template, for example, this feature template one, and then I will just make some modification in it, like maybe I will just add a different description, right? So as you can see, um, because I am modifying a feature template that has device templates connected and with attachments, uh, it requires this process of reattaching the devices. And so the same way as this happens in vmanage, on Sastre tool, as we provide that force option and as it needs to uh, push that updated feature template, because there were attachments associated with that feature template, then the tool will automatically perform any reattachments in this case of the device to the template. If it was a, let's say, a vSmart policy, it will automatically perform the policy reactivating. Okay, so it's done. So in the current state, what happens is um, there is a feature template that has the same name as in the backup, but the contents are different. So if I were to run a regular restore, because the name matches, uh, Sastre would skip that item and not try to override it. But if I would like to make the backup the source of truth, then I can make sure that if there is a diff, it will override using the backup as source. Okay, so let's do it. So when you specify the source option, if the items have the same name, it will compare the contents, and if there is a diff, and it will push. If there is no diff, it will skip it because there's no benefit in trying to push. Right? So as we uh, anticipated, the because I'm modifying this feature template that happens to have attachments, uh, the tool is performing the reattach, right? The same way as we saw on vmanage, uh, that vmanage requires reattaching the templates. Okay, so it's complete. So if we go back to that template, the the one that we have modified the description, you can see that it is back to the original value as we had from the previous backup. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it. We covered most of the functionality of Sastre. Thanks for watching.